Everyone, my name is PrimeTime Moff and welcome to the premiere episode of our podcast-only monthly show, Talking Toons, where each month I will be joined by a new special guest and across 2 episodes we'll be discussing toons and toys from our childhood. In this first episode of the month, we will discuss multiple shows and toys, and then we follow up with an episode where we'll discuss a specific show chosen by our guest. Now, I'd like to introduce my amazing first guest, only 7th person that asked, but he said yes. And that and that is the wonderful Pete from Transformers The Show. Pete, thank you for joining me.
You are very welcome, sir. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, no, I know I joked there, but no, you were, as I said to you beforehand, I wanted somebody who would be casual, would be just a really good chat, and we always end up just blethering anyway, so I thought this would be a good first one. But the challenge we're going to have is what shows do we talk about, because as we were saying in the kind of set up to this, there are so many good shows in the 80s. So just tell me your recollections of the cartoons you maybe watched as a child.
Okay, so I always remember, I think it was always that coming home from school, wasn't it? It was always what was on ITV or BBC at 3:30, 4 o'clock. But I think for me, before even that, my mum and dad, they used to work a lot, right? So I had an older brother and sister, and they would babysit me and my little brother a lot. And, you know, the wonderful world of VHS, you know, when you could set it to long play and a 3-hour videotape became 6 hours. I just remember all these random episodes of random cartoons that would have just been on the telly and just recorded. So, I mean, I'm looking down that list. It's like Thundercats and Masters of the Universe were probably the big ones. Yeah. I think for me, obviously, yes, I do Transformers the show. I'm a Transformers man, but I don't remember, you know, Transformers being really shown on TV. It was, you know, I really picked up, you know, Transformers and trying to watch it and stuff once it had finished on TV. You know, I was reading the comics before I was able to watch the episodes and stuff. But Masters of the Universe and Thundercats, I think, was just starting to come to the end of the run. Mm-hmm. You know, ended their run on TV when I was watching it. Mate, I'm even thinking that was a time before I even wore glasses. Blown my mind. Can you imagine? It was colour. I mean, the images were colour. All right, so that's a win. That's a win in itself.
As we're talking, I'm coming up with shows in my head of shows that just kind of jump out. There's just so many, and I think the point you made there, right? So something different to now. So I've got 2 kids, 6-year-old and an 11-year-old, and both of them have grown up in the era of Netflix or YouTube, or they go and pick their show and they go and watch their show. And it's interesting. My eldest, when he was born, I made the call that I wasn't going to let him do that, and I made him watch all the shows I grew up with. So I bought loads of DVDs, bought Mask, bought He-Man, and I had a great time watching them all with him, because with one, it was easy. When I got to my second, I was just like, just watch what you want. I just need peace. But it's a different lifestyle for them to experience shows. Whereas, as you said, when it was us, it was you got home from school and you watched what was on. You know, you'd have choice of BBC One and ITV. That was it. And then same on a Saturday morning. So you didn't have a great idea. So I think we experienced a lot more of the shows, because what else are we going to do? You're not going to go, well, I'm going to go and find the DVD set or whatever. It just wasn't there. It was, you had to watch them.
100%. You didn't have the, you know, I remember on a Saturday and a Sunday morning, like Saturday morning, like my dad would be working, but Sundays he was always at home. You know, he'd always have Sundays off, and, you know, you had 2 choices. You had like Channel 3 or Channel 4, or, you know, he puts BBC One on, watches the news. You know, he'd let us watch cartoons up until like 9:30, 10 o'clock. But it's like you watched what was on. You didn't need to enjoy it. You know, you watched it. But, you know, I think, you know, stuff like Disney Club, you know, I'm looking like Gummy Bears, man. You know, Tailspin, you know, all of those.
Tailspin. That wasn't on my list, but that's an epic show.
I think so many people of our era, you know, that was it. You didn't have
No.
I was lucky in so just probably before I was about 10. So it was probably about when I was about 9. We about a quarter of a mile away, we had a parade of shops at the bottom of our road, and we had a video rental shop that my mum used to work at part time. So all of these cartoons that hadn't managed to, find their way onto, TV, the BBC or ITV hadn't picked it up, or I hadn't seen it and stuff. You'd get those random, couple of episodes or the random videos, and she could bring them home on a night. Right, yes. She could bring them home on a night, and me and my brother would sit, and it was mate. It was almost like a potluck because you'd go in and you'd look at the video cases because the video cases told the story, didn't they? Yeah. A bit like with the toys, the artwork tells you what you're in for. And the kids section was massive, and I think it just does show what a different era it was. Yes. You look at that list, and I think. The story writing and storytelling, and I was thinking this earlier. If you had to sum up the 80s in terms of a genre that covered most of media, it was adventure. Mm. When you look at action adventure, it was the era of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and all those guys. And the cartoons reflected it as well.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, very much so,
running down that list, G.I. Joe, Master of the Universe, Thundercats, Brave Star, all of those things have this massive hero that goes on these adventures. Okay, and he's fighting evil, and or she's fighting evil. Jason the Wheel Warriors, mate.
The interesting
we were spoiled, but we didn't know it at the time. No,
the video shop one always makes me smile. Like, I miss video shops. Like, I wish I could let my kids experience it. The idea of going to the video shop and seeing what you could get on a Friday night. We had a video shop in our wee high street that on a Saturday and Sunday, I can't remember what it was because mum and dad paid for it. I was a proper kid. But if you got it in the morning, you took it back the same day, it was buttons. So it was a Saturday morning, my dad would get us up, take us down, and we'd go down, grab a video each and up the road. And the old videos would be watched, like you'd hire it and it's probably 90 minutes. You'd watch it 2 or 3 times in a day and you would get through them. But there's nothing like that aspect of nowadays. You're built into the release schedule of when's the next episode of this coming or when's that. I remember going to a video shop and they just have new videos and then you had no idea what to expect, and it was like the excitement of something coming that you didn't know was just incredible. Same with toy shops, to be fair, back then as well. Again, not like now where we're so accustomed to pre-ordering online. We know the date. You're seeing everybody saying it's coming out this week, it's coming out that. Yeah. Just when things drop, even now when things drop and you don't know about it, I love that experience because I'm like excited. And I think the 80s is so interesting, or the shows are so interesting. Both the shows and the toys had to try and hook you straight away. The toys, how many of the toys' artwork was real artwork? Like, you and I are Masters Universe fans, and you think of the artwork in the boxes of them's just stunning. Mask Transformers, they all had amazing artwork that grabbed you and made you want to get it. Cartoons did it with theme tunes. Like, how many genuinely outstanding 80s theme tunes is there? I listen to a band, Punk Rock Factory, and all they do is cover cartoons theme tunes, and I love it. Like, my wife asked me the other day, I do not listen to music. Like, genuinely, I've never really been a big fan of music other than soundtracks, ironically. And she said to me the other day, I fancy going to a concert. Is there anything you'd like to go see? It's like Punk Rock Factory. Like, I was like in a crowd having them playing, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm at that. I'm into that. She wasn't really up for
it. I can't see why. But going down that list, like Brave Star, Jason the Wheeled Warriors, Mask. Mysterious Cities of Gold should be in there.
Oh, Mysterious Cities of Gold, yeah.
You talk. But I think you're right, because you had with that captive audience. They were captive, but you're right that they had to get you on the hook instantly. And the first thing is what you see and what you hear. So it's the montage of the intro, and the soundtrack. Jason the Real Warriors. Yeah. Gummy Bears.
Gummy Bears.
Mate, yeah.
Gummy Bears theme tune. You can't not smile with that. It's just so much fun. But then you've got DuckTales. Like DuckTales. Oh, my 6-year-old was obsessed with the DuckTales theme tune for about a year. Like, we just play it on repeat on YouTube, and I never get bored of it because it just always makes me smile, because it takes you back to a time where that was just epic. And there are some absolutely outstanding 80s theme tunes, and as you said there, that kind of montage. But I always think of Mask when I think of how did it sell you in the action. Mask sold you in the action really, really well, and it's theme tune and intro video. And there are some that did well on one or other. There aren't massive amounts that did both bits really well. Like He-Man's is okay, but it's not that grab you.
Yeah.
But something like Turtles like told you who everybody was, what they did. If you're in your intro song can tell you who are the bad guys, who are the good guys, what do you need to know? You could watch any episode of that series and you're already kind of, I know who these are. And that's clever. Really clever.
Right. I think, and you've just summed it up really nicely there, is that, you've got He-Man and the Master Universe that was the beginning of the 80s. And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that was towards the end of the 80s. And it's almost, in that time frame, it's evolved.
Yes.
Because you had the same, I'm looking at it now, like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Oh, yes.
I could sing, I'm not going to. However, I could sing that, but why? I'm now a mid-40-year-old man. I haven't watched Chip and Dale for 30 plus years.
Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
I haven't. Before TFN, get yourself watching that movie and then tell me how it's what they should do with most kind of 80s stuff to bring it back into now. It makes it fun for people who've never seen it before, but also makes it really fun for people who have. Like, both my kids love it, and I love it because it just has a perfect mix of 80s nostalgia, but really good kind of humour. So that's a good one for you. But yes, that's a theme tune that's stuck in your head. And
and like the raccoons as well. I'm just going down that list and I'm going, I just need to sack off work and just watch cartoons for it. Look, genuinely, I would, if only someone would pay me. If anyone's listening to this and they want to pay me just to watch the cartoons, I'm not going to review them. I just want to watch them.
Yeah. I used to, for a while, when during lockdown, me and the two boys, on whatever day I was off, because I worked shifts at that point, so did the wife, just so we could, because we had both had to work during lockdown. But my days off, we would spend an hour or two every morning sitting having cereal, watching like old cartoons, and it was great fun. Like, and I started to go, let me find some stuff that isn't the obvious. Like, let me go and find older stuff, and there's stuff that's not on this list that is popping into my head as I'm saying that. I'm thinking, going, oh, what about that? What about that? And there's so many. And I think the joy, I said this to you before, the joy I'm looking forward to with doing this is people will come on, and you've done it. You've gave me a couple of ones that I didn't have on my list that I'm like, why didn't I have that on the list? But there'll be others that will come on and go, what about? But they'll come up with stuff, and I'll be like,
exactly. but that's the cool thing about this, and I think. And I said it, at the beginning, it shows you how spoiled we were, because we, in a 10-year period, we've got a huge list, and I'll rephrase it. You had a huge list, and then I've added to it. Yeah. So that huge list has got even longer, right? When my daughter was growing up, I can remember a handful, and I used to watch TV with her all the time. There's nothing. I think it's easy to say that back in my day, but there was an art of storytelling.
Yes.
I think, even back to the corny stuff, like, with Master of the Universe, and there was a message at the end of it that, stay away from strangers, don't take drugs.
You
Hulk
forget
Hogan's,
that.
yeah. Hulk Hogan's rock and roll wrestling. Take your vitamins. But all of that stuff, and now it's kind of very much like, I suppose it's the eras and what's popular, but I don't know. I just don't see it. These were designed at, I think older kids.
Yeah. Well, the interesting bit probably from the 70s into the 80s, because there was good 70s cartoons. Like I think back to things that I watched when I was a kid, like your Pink Panther and other things I can't think of.
Well, like Looney Tunes,
Batfink.
Wings of Steel.
Yeah, but what's different in the 80s, really probably starting with Masters Universe, is a lot of these are designed to sell toys. And what I always find really interesting is how many of these shows that only had like one series or one wave of toys had big cartoons. Some of them had small, like Visionaries, Dino Riders only had like 13, 14 episodes. One of my favorites, Bionic 6, had like 50 episodes, 56, I think it was. Like, how do you get that when it wasn't going to have a lot? And there's loads of shows that like that. It's also interesting that, we're both fans of Transformers. We're both fans of Masters Universe. Both would kind of classed as evergreen products that are still getting new material pulled out now. Turtles is the same. Thundercats doesn't get new stuff, but it's clearly got toys going. So there's, out of that big list, you're only a handful. You probably get, maybe you could talk 10 of them that have got some modern iteration. And yet a lot of them have got big fan bases that could easily have a more modern version and have a popular run. But actually some of these just stick with you and you can't get away from them.
No, and I think you're right. They certainly, and harping back to Transformers, it in essence was, a toy advert. It was a 20-minute toy advert. And characters would get dropped in and taken out with no explanation, no tie into the story. It would just be, what was next on the production run. But I mean, you take something like Jason the Wheel Warriors. If ever there was a cartoon that was crying out, for a proper toy run, it was that.
That was such a toy. I've got a Sawboss. I managed to pick up a Sawboss years ago. And it's cool, but it needed more. We needed more from that. And there's there are, as I say, there's ones in there that are just, I wish they would get reboots, like Visionaries, Dino Riders. Most of them are owned by Hasbro, which is really frustrating.
And that's the thing. But we look at it as fans, don't we? It's like, this is what we want, and they go, okay, but once Moff and Peter bought them, what about everybody else? Are we going to be able to have paid the production line?
We'd probably buy 2 copies each as well. So.
Agreed. All right, so what's the plan for selling the other 550,000 pieces? But I think you're right. I think they picked the big hitters, haven't they? And gone, okay, what's a modern update on this look like? But Bravestar, man, they could easily do that.
And I look forward to it. So at TFN, we'll have the DSM, I think it's called, that released a Bravestar figure. But I have also pre-ordered the Ramen Toys one. I've got the Ramen Toys Centurions. I think they're really nice. I am total kid of the 80s. My non-Transformer collection is growing rapidly because I'm like, I want to look around and see a representation of these cartoons that I loved as a kid on, and I don't need everything. For the Centurions, I was like, I only really need the kind of main characters. That's it. Same with Bravestar. Actually, Bravestar, if I get Tex Hex, Bravestar, and 3030, I'd be happy. I don't need all the rest of them. And that's how I feel with a lot of them. There are obviously things like Transformers where I go all in, or He-Man where I kind of don't go all in, but I go a lot deeper, same as G.I. Joe. But I picked up things like the Defenders of the Earth figures because it's easy. There's only 5 characters. So simple. And I like that when it's just get it.
Yeah.
But
because you can complete it.
Yeah.
Can't you? You can complete it.
Yeah. But there are so many that have just not been touched, and you're like, it'd be great to see that. And I always look forward to San Diego Comic-Con, because I think what new thing is going to be released that I'm going to be blown away by, that I'm
this year.
I need to get that. Like one of my other favorites, Toxic Crusaders. Like, in a really weird thing, it's really nice to have had a new Toxic Crusader figure. So we've got two brands doing it just now, Trick or Treat Studios and Super 7. So Super 7 have done like Ultimates, and I love them. They're amazing. But I prefer the other ones because they're a slightly improved version of the original toys, and that really resonates with me. And the other joy I have is that actually we have them to sell, and it's cool selling Transformers, but 99% of our stock's Transformers, and that excitement over selling Transformers is still there, but it's definitely dulled down from when I first joined. But when we first got Toxic Crusaders figures in, and we've got them to take to TFN, I'm hoping that somebody has the same feeling as me, as seeing it going, oh, Toxic Crusader, I need to own that, and I'll be able to provide that to them, and that is really exciting for me. And I've backed that the Trick or Treat ones. We've got the second figure coming. That's cool. But there's some weird and wonderful brands out there that, what was the other one I picked up? I've got ordered Street Sharks that I didn't have them as a kid. They just were past my time, but I always looked at them and went, they're kind of fun. They sound cool. So when I saw they did a new version of them, and it was like $26, it's like, do you know what? I'm going to buy one, because actually I always kind of like the idea of it, and it'll be cool on the shelf. And that's, you and I went to the toy fair last year, and that walking around seeing all these old toys was just so much fun. And I'm taking the good wife to the NEC one at the end of September, and even she's like, I'm quite looking forward to seeing. She likes watching my reaction to things. I've told her that she's not getting early access because I don't want distracted when I'm going buying toys. She came in when I bought my stuff. I'm after. I'll bring her in, but it's the toys aspect of it as well. We're talking the cartoons, but some of the toys for the 80s are just epic, fun.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right, and I think back to talking about taking the wife to the NEC toy fair. I always think of it as it's something everybody can relate to. Because everyone was a kid and everyone had toys when they were a kid, so they might not particularly have the same love for the brand or or the fandom that you're interested in, but there'll be something they were interested in as a kid. If it was, it might have been Barbie, or it might have been Spider-Man, or it might, there's a plethora of choices. But walking around somewhere, when we go to the Sandown Racecourse one, you walk around and it's worth the admission fee just to walk around and see all the stuff you've forgotten about.
It really is. It is. And I love going to the toy shops as well. Like, when we did the Sandown last year, it was part of a kind of 5-day tour. I would say tour of Britain, but we didn't do any Scottish shops. It was only English shops. Because I can do Scotland shops anytime, but we came down and did a pile of shops in England, and it was just great fun, like seeing so many things. And there was toys that I hadn't thought about since I was a kid, and it just blew me away that being a toy collector, you think you're going to know, not everything, but you're going to know a lot. But see the amount of stuff I learned at 5 days, chatting to the stall holders at the toy fair, chatting to the shop owners, it was just incredible. And I started a mask collection. They got quite hefty into a mask collection on that trip. But I then made a deal with myself that I was only buying them on when I go to toy fairs or in person, because I could go on eBay and just complete it. But that's not that. It would be fun, but it wouldn't be as fun as, right, okay, I'm going to a toy shop. We did a toy shop on the way to TFUK Con, for example, and I grabbed some mask stuff there. When I do a toy fair trip in September, that's my priority, is to try and get some more mask. And I think it's good to have that kind of, actually, I'm looking for stuff. But the best bit of them is you never know what you're going to see. You genuinely don't know what you're going to see. And that's incredible. Like I saw Fisher Price Adventure People that I haven't genuinely thought about since I was probably 13, 14, when I remember moving house, and they kind of went, but they were toys that I shouldn't have been, I was playing with at any point, but they worked with like G.I. Joe figures and stuff. They were just So seeing stuff like that, and it just took me back. I'm like, that's amazing. And that's what's good fun about these kind of bits, is when you see something, whether it be a show or a toy, that really takes you back to your childhood, that you've just not thought about or didn't know. It's just great.
And the feeling and it's really hard, isn't it, to explain it to somebody, but it's almost like the endorphins that are released from the nostalgic view of it.
Yes.
So like for me, as I read Gummy Bears there, I'm remembering a Sunday morning,
yes.
being and me and my brother bouncing around the living room, pretending we've had gummy berry juice. Do you know what I mean? And bouncing here and there and everywhere. But you know what I mean? But that, and then suddenly, as you're thinking about it, it makes you. It makes me happy. And then your mind goes off and it's like, oh, gummy bears. What else? Oh yeah, Tailspin was, Tailspin was there as well, and DuckTales, and it kind of grows and grows, and before you know it, you're in this massive daydream about, oh my god, there were so many good cartoons when I was a kid.
There was one of the fun things I like to do, and I've done it with my kids. I've done it with my pal Kev when we did that trip. Was you can go onto YouTube and there are people who have set them up as quizzes to try and guess the 80s theme tunes. Yeah. And it's just so much fun. It's like trying to fight each other to see who can remember it after 1 or 2 bars. But and there's always something that catches you and you're like, I don't get that. I don't get it. And then as soon as they reveal it, you're like, oh my God, that's taken me back. That's amazing. So what was your kind of big favourites when you were growing up? What was young Pete watching and buying toys wise when he was a kid, other than Transformers?
I'm trying to think. Anything. All right. I would get anything, in my eyeballs. I think the earliest toys I can remember, are Thundercats. Those are the earliest. I don't think they were really on TV. That was definitely fell into the mum's bought a Thundercats video back from the video shop.
Yeah.
I think, the stuff that really sticks out in my mind, is that stuff that was late 80s, early 90s, like Count Duckula on a Channel 3. And it still blows my mind now that David Jason did the voice.
Oh, amazing. That again, we forget that, like, that's the bits of British shows, like so many good British shows that had voice actors doing the voices who are now actual real actors, and like David Jason. It was, what else did they do? What was it?
Danger Mouse.
Yeah, there's something else he did. There's loads of shows like that. Loads of them.
Oh,
loads of them.
No, massively. So I think it was that stuff that was, certainly, as we said, fell into that category of, right, it's like you're going from school, like, I want to sit and watch cartoons. My mum wants to get on with the housework. You are then plonked in front of the television from 4 till 5, because their news round would be on at 5 o'clock. Yeah. And then Neighbours would be on at 5:35.
Blue Peter,
mate.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. But that's when I started to lose interest, because I was a cartoon man.
Yeah.
I was a cartoon man. So anything I could play in a playground, Brave Star. I never had the strength of a bear. However, I did have the speed of a puma. Well, yeah. Yeah, but it's taken me 35 years to guess it. Mask, again, I don't really. It was one of those that, Mum would bring the video back, send it back. It'd be 3 episodes, and she'd have to take it back because I couldn't get over the concept that other people might want to watch it. So she'd bring it home for the evening. We'd have to watch it twice, and then she's got to take it back to her the following day. Like, why? I need to watch it another 5 or 6 times. Muppet Babies on a Saturday morning. I think I was one of those guys. My toys. We didn't get toys through the year, and cue the violin music. I got toys on my birthday, and I got toys at Christmas, and you got toys that were in the Argos or the Index catalogue. You didn't.
Yeah,
That
you
was
did.
the
Yes.
ingenuity of my
Yeah.
parents.
But my childhood toys were we got to pick one toy. Like, well, that's not true. We would circle 3 or 4 toys that we wanted, and one of them would be picked to be bought. And then I now know this now because I've spoke to my mum as a parent when we had Jamie. Um, they would then go and find what they could get cheap. So I've got
Yeah,
random toys that nobody's ever heard of because it was the cheap toy. Like I had loads of Bionic Six, for example, because it was a clearance toy. So they
yeah,
got loads of them for me because they had that, so there's loads of them like that. And I've done that for Jamie. Like I bought him the 2011 Thundercats. Like he was born 2013, but like 2 or 3 years after they were out, they were in like home bargains. And I just bought the full
mm,
wave and said, that's fine. See, when he's old enough, he's going to get them. Like, so like when he was
yeah,
3, he got a full set of them because they were so cheap. So I have that feeling of there was for a long time I was like, oh, I wish I didn't really get what I wanted as a kid. But I also
mm,
I'm glad I didn't because actually I got to
yeah,
experience so much. And
yeah.
as a grown adult now, I get to experience toys that I've never, vast majority of masks I've never experienced. So I'm getting them and I'm like, how does this gimmick work? And how does it, how do they go together? How do they transform? Same with Transformers. Like, and I think there's a joy as an adult collector that I'm not just buying things I had, I'm experiencing
Yeah,
toys from the 80s for the first time, and that's an incredible experience.
but and I think yourself. The 80s was a very different era, and it wasn't the disposable income that is around these days. It was a case of you pick one toy. That's and you had so many cool cartoons out, and they were all pushing a toy line and stuff, and you couldn't get
No,
everything because
yeah,
you couldn't afford everything.
yeah,
And do you know what? It was an era where you didn't have Netflix, you didn't have phones, you didn't have all these computer games and stuff. So you played with what you had and you enjoyed them and you built your own stories and you had fun with them, and you'd either play with your
yes,
friends or your siblings and stuff. And it taught you. It sounds really daft, and I don't mean it preachy, but it taught you social skills.
yes,
And
yes,
and and I don't look back and go, oh my god, I had such a horrible childhood. I wish I had all these toys, because I didn't. Because I had a
no,
great childhood,
yeah,
and I didn't have much. But what I did have was really well played with,
yes, yeah,
and brought me so much
yeah,
joy. These days, you've probably done it with the boys. I did it with Maddie. You shower them with toy. Half of it don't get played with,
no,
but you're buying it because you convince yourself, because I didn't have a lot when I was a kid, so I'm going to give them all of
yeah,
what I didn't have. And do you know what? They'll play with some of it, but they'll pick 2 or 3 things that they love,
yes,
absolutely
yeah,
obsessed playing with. And it's no different to what we were
yeah,
like when we were growing up.
yeah, yeah, very much so. And I think it's interesting having had the two boys. Jamie had went through spells of like he really hooked on a toy, and that was the way to get all that toy line for him, like
Yeah,
Ben 10, Thunderbirds. Sean's never done that because he's got all of the stuff that Jamie had and all the stuff I've had in. So Sean never really does toys because he's got so many that he's like
yeah,
comes to Christmas and he's like, I've got enough that I'm all right. And I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
cool, cool. We're struggling. What you be buying you? But
yeah. Excellent.
it's a different bit. And I always think back to when figures broke when I was a kid. I kept using them. Like if a GI Joe figure lost his legs, he became a wee drone guy because
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I wasn't going to my parents to say I broke this. Can I get a replacement? It was
yeah,
broke. That's it. You're dealing with it, pal.
yeah. I've changed his name. He's
Yeah,
become a different character.
yeah. So
No,
we are coming to the end. So I'm going to ask your final thoughts on your kind of reflection back to the cartoons of our childhood.
for me, probably it was the weekends where you know Live and Kicking, Disney Club, all of that stuff, even into the 90s, with Spider-Man and X-Men. Um, for me, it was that weekend stuff. It was that weekend stuff, because you didn't have to have school, you didn't have to go and have your tea. It was like literally your mum and dad need to get on with stuff on the morning, so they just plonk in front of the telly, and then you have your eyes opened, to
Yeah.
all of the latest things that they've imported over from the US.
Oh, and one thing we never touched on was that aspect of some of the stuff getting imported and getting changed, like your G.I. Joe to Action Force, or the one that I
Yeah,
always say to my boys is Turtles, like Hero
yeah,
Turtles, like
yeah.
just mad. Anyway, like listen, that's been an absolute pleasure, to have this conversation with you, looking back at our cartoons and our toys from our childhood. We are going to bring you back for another episode where we're going to talk one or two specific cartoons that you've chosen. So we'll have that. Before we do that, Pete, where can people find you? Not just in your
So
house.
yeah. I'm not giving out my address unless people want to give me some limited edition G1 stuff. I'm on Twitter at Willis_Pete. You'll see me with my random musings and occasional toy photos. And on a Friday night, myself and a couple of the other guys have a little show called Transformers the Show. We go live Friday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube. If you like Transformers or other toys of that era, please give us a follow and give us a watch. You might find something you like.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Pete. So thank you all
Thanks
for
for having me, mate.
Oh, you're very welcome. I hope you all enjoyed this podcast only show. If you do, or you did, please remember to check out our regular content on YouTube at PrimeTime Toys TV, PTTV. And we'll join Pete later for the next episode. Thank you very much, Pete.
Cheers, buddy.